Hey guys, we'll just wait a little bit for it to populate a little. I hope everyone's doing well. Oh, I should thank my coffee mug today was made for me by Angel and her dog Hendrix, so I should thank them. I've had this coffee mug a long time. It's one of my favorites. So thank you, Angel. I hope you're listening or watching. I hope everyone's still doing well and continuing to shelter in place and stay at home, and I hope everyone's staying healthy. I know these are trying times. I know that as time goes on here, you get a little more restless. I think it's really important right now that we stay the course. I think there is some small signs that it may be working, this quarantine, and the fact that we're all staying at home, but it's challenging, but I think it's really necessary. And I think if we continue to do it, we're going to shorten the time, one, that we have to be doing it. And I think two, we're going to save lives. So I think that we just have to be hyper vigilant and stay the course. And by doing that, it's going to lessen the impact on our society, which is important. And I hope everyone has their masks and they're wearing them out, and really making sure that you're cleaning and washing your hands and Purelling. And I think it's all those things taken into account, the staying at home, the constant being hypervigilant about cleansing your hands and Purell and wearing your mask is very, very important. So I think we just have to keep doing it, everybody. Just keep doing it. And we're gonna beat this as we're all a team, right? And we'll beat it as a team. What we keep, today's topic and what we've been doing, obviously, is we've been doing a little bit of a different topic. Second part of this conversation. This is our third Ask the Vet series, week 3. And it's amazing for everyone who's kind of tuned in from the beginning, and the people as the more and more we get more and more people tuning in. We just think where we were 3 weeks ago and think where we are now and how things have changed. And it could change like that in another 3, and hopefully for the better. Hopefully in 3 weeks from now, we're talking about the dramatic lessening of numbers. And so I thought what we would do today, our topic today, we're going to review the COVID-19, just give an update. There's a couple new developments I think you guys have all been following. And the second thing is we're going to talk about anxiety in pets, right? One of the sequela or things that can happen during something like this is anxiety is boosted in us, obviously, but sometimes we forget that anxiety is boosted in the animals during times of change. And so we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about one, how to do some things now to mitigate the anxiety that your pets may be feeling now, as well as mitigate going forward. Because if you remember, our whole goal of this is to shorten the time we're doing this and get off the shelter in place and return back to some normalcy in our society. And, one of the potential outcomes of that may be that we've been with our pets for a long time, and that's their new norm. And then all of a sudden now we're back to work, we're back out of the house. So we're going to talk about a few things, and we'll do that second today. The first thing I want to talk about is just do an update. What we've been discussing all along is how this COVID affects our animals, our companion pets. And all the information from the AVMA, the multiple laboratories that are doing tests, and everything that's come out up until very recently has said that companion animals have not been shown to carry or to either get sick from the disease or to carry the disease. One of the things that we've learned recently, and it's been headlines in the news, is that they did test a tiger positive at the Bronx Zoo. Name was Nadia, 4-year-old tiger. What happened was at the very end of March, they started this particular tiger started having some wheezing and some coughing, and they had a suspicion, so they tested. And she did come up positive for the SARS-CoV-2, which is the causative virus for the COVID-19. They actually, several cats through the Bronx Zoo, both tigers and lions, did come down with these, really what they're describing as mild respiratory signs, some wheezing, some coughing, but they're all expected to recover. But what they wanted to find out is they wanted to not only identify what was going on, and they did, this was from the USDA veterinary laboratories did the original testing, and they've now involved labs, they've involved Cornell and University of Illinois, I believe, are doing additional tests. They're not exactly sure. Originally it had come out, some of the original news was that a possible handler had given it to them. They're not sure that's the case right now because everybody that they tested negative. Remember, 25% of people can be asymptomatic with this, and so they can walk around and be shedding the virus without even knowing they're sick. So they wanted to make sure they tested everybody. So they're not totally sure. I think one of the things they talk about on a window of this virus is 14 days. And the zoo was closed to the public about 11 days before. So is it possible that someone was there? Yes, the only downside to that argument is people are so far away from obviously big cats at the zoo that they're outside that social distance. So I think the likelihood is probably one of the zookeepers somehow had it. Maybe they were asymptomatic, came in contact, and it did pass. What does that mean for us? And I think for us, obviously, what we want to know is, can this affect our companion animals, our dogs and cats at home? And what can we do to mitigate that? If what they're saying now, and again, the AVMA, the USDA, what they're saying now is they're saying that there is still no evidence that this can cross to companion animals. But I would caution that, yes, that could change. I think as they're doing testing, the labs have been randomly testing for a bit now and have not identified any positives on any companion animals. However, the fact that this tiger did come down with this virus, I think what it means for us is very simply this. I think it doesn't change how we should act with our animals at home at all. We can still snuggle, we can still be around our animals if we are not sick or showing any signs. The social distancing still has to happen if you take your dogs out on a walk, and we were talking about this 3 weeks ago, and it is just as true or more true now that you want to stay away from other people's dogs, other people, and just maintain a distance. It does mean, however, the one thing that changes here is that if you become sick, not only should you quarantine from the other people that you live with, but you should quarantine from your animals during that time. And that's really just in an abundance of caution. Again, no companion animals have been tested positive in the US, and there's, and now that could change tomorrow, that could change in a week, and we'll just keep you updated, obviously, as this goes on. But I think the prudent thing to do would be to just take as much caution as you can, and if you do get sick, isolate yourself. So this also goes back to our last week conversation on emergency preparedness. I think that's important. If you live alone, if you have, you have a few pets, I think you have to have a plan. You want to be proactive. You want to do the things we discussed in last week's. And I think that is up so people who missed it can go look at it. It's to have a plan and be proactive in case of this, and you hope it never comes to fruition, and it probably will not, but I think you do have to prepare. We want to be proactive, not reactive, like we were talking about last week. We're going to beat this. We are going to, but we have to work as a team. They say, one of the sayings at Earth Animals, we are all Earth Animals, and that's true. We're all animals, and we're all in this together. So we need to act as a big team here and just continue, even though time will lapse here and people get more and more tired of the solitude and tired of not being able to see their friends and family. It is paramount that we continue this because it's the only way that we're going to lessen the impact on many people's lives. And like I said last week, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for the people you love, and do it for the essential, the doctors, the nurses, the grocery store workers, the veterinarians, the people that are still out there and being exposed. Sooner we can lower these numbers, the better it is for them, the more lives it's going to save. So let's continue to do that. One of the things I was going to ask people is, I would love to talk about, I was thinking about, in times we all do this when we're at home and we're like, I'm tired of being in my house, and I'm tired of one of the flip sides to that is it does give us time to. I was talking about this with a coworker at Earth Animal earlier today. It does give us time to actually spend some time with our loved ones in our immediacy. A lot of us can spend time with people we're sheltered in place with that we may not in our busy lives get to, and have conversations that we don't get to have, and really just try to enjoy their time. So I think that's one kind of silver lining to this, that we get to do that. And so one of the things I thought of going forward, and we're going to be doing this every week, is I would love people to send me kind of a positive thought or a positive note. And I'll pick one for the week and read it at the beginning. I think, we all have to, and this is going to tie into the anxiety part of this, is that we all have to try to find joy day to day in whatever we can. And I think, positive thought and reflection can reduce our anxiety, which ultimately can also help reduce our pets' anxiety. And so let's start talking about anxieties in pets. So I would say as a veterinarian, over the past several years, and I've been practicing for now 24 years, over the past several years, I've been seeing an increase in anxiety in pets before this whole crisis happened. And I think there's a number of factors that go into that. I mean, people's anxieties are going up. Certainly pets can sense anxiety in people. They can sense when people are upset, and that can filter into them. So I think as anxieties in people go up, it certainly mirrors that. Pets mirror that. I think the other thing is our lives have gotten busier and more hectic. So I think in that, it also affects our animals. So something like this comes along, and one of the things that we all know, and I talk to people when they get young dogs and they adopt puppies and they get puppies, and when we're going over the original exam and we're talking about training and we're doing our whole layout of what, things to do to achieve success and potty training and everything, is that pets thrive on a schedule. They really do, as do a lot of people, as do I and a lot of people, but certainly pets do. And what happens when that schedule gets radically changed is it can really throw them off. It can throw them off in the form of potty habits. It can throw their eating off. It can throw and it can increase their anxiety, frankly. So I think when something like this happens, it flips the script for them. And sometimes they don't really know how to handle it. I think our discussion today is really twofold. I think the first part of the discussion is going to be what we can do now during the quarantine to enrich our pets' lives and reduce the stress level. And the second part is going to be steps we can take now and down the road as we transition back into our normal lives, and hopefully that's sooner than later, how we can, again, help prevent or minimize their anxiety to that change. So let's start. One of the best things, and we'll talk about dogs right now, one of the best things you can do with your animals and with your dogs is exercise. And it's great for us. It's great for our mental well-being. It's great for your pets. So, subject on where you live, getting them out and walking, and again, practicing social distancing, but getting them out and walking and getting exercise is great. And it's very good for their overall health as well as their mental health, and ours too. I know I keep talking about, each week I keep talking about Sadie, who's our recent rescue, and she's a mixed breed, but she has a lot of working dog in her, and she has an abundance, I would say, of energy. And if she doesn't dispel that or burn that in a positive way, she sometimes can burn it in a negative way, in the form of chewing things and getting on the counter. And so I noticed a definitive difference during this. And she does have some anxiety. She has a little bit, as many adoptive animals do. She does have some separation anxiety for sure. And I see a marked difference in her on days where she can get outside and she can run in the yard and we can take her for a walk. Rainy days are not her friend. If she can't get out to do that, so we have to then adjust on those days and adjust those into playtime in the house. And, we talked a little bit last week about it, but, I could sit on the couch and throw her ball to her for an hour. She gets it, brings it back, and especially we had some weather up in the East Coast this week. It's a couple of foul days, and those days were really spent, a few hours were spent in the den playing with her and throwing it, and she just needed that to burn that. So I think that's also important. Weather's going to affect those things. So remember, have things you can play with them and stimulate them in the house. She's also very smart. So she is one that I can use a blanket and put her toy under the blanket, and she will figure out, just some mental games. She will figure out how to get under it and get it. And so things like that, just to stimulate her and stimulate just her thought and just some physical activity really, really helps her. Part of this too, I think sometimes we forget about cats, right? We think anxiety is a problem in dogs and separation anxiety is a problem in dogs, but anxieties can be a problem in cats as well. They just manifest their signs differently. Whereas dogs may chew and may, obviously chew things or bark or things like that. Cats will manifest it in different ways, going, inappropriate, urinating, just things you can tell that they're off and upset. So it is important during these times to also play with your cats. You have the little toys, the laser pointers, just to get them some exercise. And also, obviously, we're giving them attention, right? We're giving them all attention because physical contact with them in times of rest is also very important. So when you're watching TV and playtime is over, just showing them some physical affection is very important to their mental health. And cats as well, just petting them, letting them sit on your lap. And one of the other things that we were talking about today is the preparation for when we do start to go back. And can we start something now? Now we're doing all these things to help their mental well-being now, but what can we do to help them down the road? What can we do to mitigate that behavior, that anxiety, when again, their whole world changes again? And I think one of those things is, as you definitely want to get out and walk with your dogs during this, it's also good for you to get out aside from your dogs. Leave them home, get out on a walk or a drive with your family, something where you're all leaving the house, because that will also, to them, will let them know you are going to be leaving, but you are going to be coming back. And, as we're all spending a lot more time in the house, I think that's important to be able for them to spend some alone time with you gone and then come back. And one of the biggest features of doing this, and something that's hugely important, is remember, you have to make leaving and coming home as normal as an event as you can. So, in other words, you don't want to make a big announcement that you're leaving. It's a quiet, it's a quiet, you just leave with your family. And when you come back, it's business as usual. You walk in, you don't want to make a big deal. You don't want to greet them heavily. You want to come in, if you're going to let them out right when you get there. If you're going out to the yard, just come in, go and let them all out in the yard and go out in the yard with them. But you want to make that just a normal. We're going to be leaving and we're coming home, and this is a normal event and this is nothing to stress about. And I think those times, as we know, if we start seeing and we start getting some dates where we think that we're going to be going back and returning to some normalcy, I think you want to increase those times, those drives, those walks that you're out, again, practicing social distancing, but increasing those times and maybe even centering those times around the normal times that you may be leaving the house. So if you're normally, again, going to go to work at 8 o'clock, maybe that's a good time to just get out of the house without them. And, that's probably a better time to walk them would be maybe later mid-morning or later in the midday, because if you do go back to having things like dog walkers, things like that, trying to go back to maintaining that sort of schedule can really kind of really help them mentally just adapt back into it. Okay? When we actually get back, when we do get back to our normalcy, when we do get back to leaving the house and going to school, and what are some of the steps we can do at that point? I think one of the things I was thinking about is, if you hadn't done it before, or if you had, and it would be a great time to use one of the local reputable dog walkers in your neighborhood, in your town. I think that one, it will be go back to helping the local community. And the other thing is to get your dogs out and to maybe in the midday get them out while you're gone can really help transition back. I think that would be a good thing. Certainly playing music, and you can even start this while you're doing your walks and your drives now, is playing music. It's just some calming music for the animals, I think, for all around, even cats and dogs, just some soft music. I think our animal's favorite, we've decided, is Ed Sheeran radio. They seem to like that kind of style of kind of melodic music. So just a thought, I think it's to have that kind of soft background noise. And we don't want to play speed metal, obviously, but we want it nice and melodic and calm, and it does do wonders. It really does. I think the other thing too is you've probably all heard and seen, of natural remedies. For things like Earth Animal has some natural remedies, emotional balance or calm down, natural plant extracts, valerian root, chamomile, lady slipper, things like that. And those things are meant to promote calming naturally. So that, if you're seeing that the behavioral modification is working, but maybe you can certainly add in some of those natural things like Rescue Remedy, other things like that. They do make collars and diffusers on the market that use pheromones, calming pheromones. There's a few of those that some people have used with success, so it's something to look at. One of the things that we're going to be talking about down the road in the Ask Our Vet series is we're going to be discussing the advance of CBD products. That's something that we all know a lot of pet owners are implementing both for themselves and their pets now for pains and anxieties. So that's going to be a topic for something in the future, but it is, something that you can discuss with your veterinarian and, can provide help for a situation like this. And obviously in severe cases where you've done behavioral modification, you've done natural remedies, and you're still having a problem, you absolutely should seek your veterinarian for advice on this. There are other things that can be done. Okay. So I hope that helps. I think that, like I said, as we get on in this, there's going to be a tendency for our anxiety to rise. And I think for all of us, we have to find our center and we have to do things on a daily basis to help prevent it from rising, both for ourselves. And the calmer we are, calmer our pets are going to be for sure. So I hope that helps. There's some questions now we'll get to. We had a couple of questions that were submitted prior to the session today from Henry on Instagram and from Stephanie Ulrich. And I think we answered those. I think I answered their questions earlier. One of the things I do want to say is I want to say a happy birthday to Stephanie Ulrich's dog Wally. Wally was 15 years old this Wednesday. It's a little French bulldog. Very, very cute. So happy birthday, Wally. Cheers. And many more. Okay. One of the new segments we're going to be doing we'll get to the questions in a minute, but one of the new segments we're going to be doing is we are going once a week, we're going to be highlighting a different independent specialty pet store across the country. And we think that there's so many of them out there doing just wonderful work, great stores, carry great products, but also are really involved in the community and rescue that we thought that it would be great. And these are all Earth Animal retailers across the country, and we just really thought it'd be great to highlight them. So we're going to highlight our first, this is called Spot Spotlight, by the way. I'll hold this up. Hopefully you can see it. So this is our first Spot Spotlight. It is All Pets Considered in Greensboro, North Carolina. And they have two retail locations in Greensboro. And we love them because of their 25-year commitment to animal rescue and the community. And All Pets Considered carries a large selection of natural pet foods, including raw, frozen dog and cat foods, and treats for dogs and cats, and a huge variety of gifts for pet lovers everywhere. So they do great work. We encourage you to go there. We also are going to be, each week, we're going to be giving away a gift card to our highlighted store. So they have 2 locations. There will be 2 gift cards, $50 gift cards given away. I'm going to give you a password in a second. The first 2 people, one gift card for each store. The first 2 people that call, the first person that calls each location with the password will win the gift card. Okay? So today's password, wait for it. Today's password is wiggle. There you go. You see it? Wiggle. There's Spot right there. Okay. So good luck to everybody, and please make sure, again, during this time, it's very important. I have another graphic here I'm going to show everybody while we talk. So we want to make sure that, I know it's easy to click a button and get online, but during this time, and we're going to be sheltering in place for several weeks. We've already been for a few. It's going to be several more. I think it's very important to shop local. So these pet stores are doing curbside and delivery, and we want them around. We want them around for long after this. So it's very important to continue to shop local and support your local pet shops. And they're all working very hard. These people work hard to make our pets and keep our pets healthy. So please continue to support them. Very important. All right, let's get to some questions here. I think Jennifer is making another good point, like I talked about before, just adhering to this. Jennifer says, please do it for the healthcare workers, we beg you. And she's absolutely right. They're on the front lines. They're there every day taking care of such sick people as they flood into these hospitals. So if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your loved ones and do it for them. I think it's hugely important. That's a good point, Jennifer. Okay, so Tammy's asking, if our pets develop any symptoms, is there anything we could do for them at home versus rushing them to the emergency vet? Most vet offices now have limited hours. Tammy, that's a good question. I think, listen, one of the, and obviously symptoms is a very, as you know, wide range of things. If I would say to you, obviously, if you think your pet is having a medical emergency, it's important. You really should bring them to the emergency vet. If they seem very ill to you, that's why they're there, and they're doing the same thing that I'm doing at my clinic, and that the vet clinics are doing across the board, which is we're doing curbside, we're coming out, we're all in masks, we are taking the pets into the hospital and looking at them and developing a plan and then coming out and talking to you. So the emergency clinics are doing the same thing. If you have an emergency, you should go there. Most vet offices are doing limited hours only to condense the time that, and honestly, this is what we're doing at our clinic, and we're going to be doing next week. We're going to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday model for the foreseeable future, and simply the point behind that is to condense the appointments and condense the time that we're exposed. We want to be able to be there for the long haul for everybody. All the veterinarians want to be there, and that's why we're still open and we're doing this. We want to be there for everybody, but we want to also try to keep our staff as safe as possible, and that's why we're taking all the precautions with as much PPE as we can do, constantly disinfecting and cleaning. And it's very labor intensive, but it's really important. So I would say that it depends on the symptoms, but if it's something that's very mild and you feel it could wait till the next day, most of the veterinarians and your home veterinarians will at least be there on an every other day basis. And, for like us, instead of having abbreviated days, what we thought is we'd like to be there full days, and that's why we did that. All right. And you have to understand there's no script for this, Tammy. We're all in this together, and we're all trying to adapt as these things come at us full force, and so we're all trying to do the best we can, and hopefully we're doing that. Let's see, Janice Bassett. Sophia says hello. Hey, Sophia, and so do I. Thank you. Thanks, Jan. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Hopefully you're well. Hi, Bronson. Bronson says hi. Happy Good Friday to you too, Bronson. Emily Besaw. Emily. Chris, do you think, hi Emily. Emily, by the way, is one of the nurses on our front lines. And Emily, thank you so much for everything you're doing. I know you're working really hard, and I know this is a trying time, but I thank you from everybody. You're doing wonderful work, and you're a great person, so thank you for everything you're doing. Chris, do you think it's a bad idea for me to be playing with or around my dogs as I work in a hospital with COVID patients? Emily, it's a great idea. Great question, sorry. So, as it stands now, like we said, they have not had any companion animals get sick with this. However, as we discussed before, I think taking an abundance of caution is important. And I think from your standpoint, I'm sure that you're already doing this, which is leaving everything at work. When you're coming home, if your animals are there, obviously, all the cleaning, showering before you see, not wearing the same clothes home that you wore into the hospital, all those things. And, if you wanted to, I would wash before you played with the dog. I would wash after you played with the dog, and just be very, very, just super hyper vigilant about just cleaning and if that changes, I'll let you know. I can text you if that changes. But right now, I think you can, play and see with your animals. I just think you have to take a super amount of caution. All right. See if I missed any. I think that's it, guys. I don't see any other ones. Anybody feel free to send in any positive messages, and I'd love to highlight one. I think it's really important that we find the positivity and the good as much as we can right now and try to lift each other up, because I know this is challenging for everybody. We can get through this together. We can. So until next week, everyone stay safe, be well, and we'll talk next week. All right? Be well, everybody.